Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1856A, and today's date is May 1st, 2019, and the title of the episode is Trump has the mainstream media deep state right where he wants them economically. Now, this is the time of year that most of us have a big old clear out. We get rid of all the stuff that's collected through the winter. And lots of us have a few jobs in our lifetime. Some, I'm sure, we'd rather forget. Yet, because of these jobs, in your clear out, hidden away in the back of a cupboard or a file cabinet, there might be a gold mine. Many of those jobs came with benefit packages that probably included a 401k. Now, lots of you probably haven't given a moment thought to those old papers they gave you when you left, but there's probably more in them right now than your checking account. And you can use that money so you don't have to miss out in your senior years. Imagine not having to worry about the bills anymore. Noble Gold can show you how to blow the financial dust off those files, revitalize the dead money, and catapult your retirement savings into orbit. Just for May, to celebrate Memorial Day, they are offering a solid silver Trump 2020 coin and a 10-ounce silver bar for anyone rolling over an IRA or cash deal over $20,000. Sound good? Talk to the team over at Noble Gold today and call 877-646-5347 and make sure to mention X22 Report to get the patriotic silver combo of 11 ounce of free silver. Protect your retirement by investing in a gold IRA. And click the link below in the description area. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, yesterday, Trump came out and we reported that right on cue, he said that the Fed would have to lower interest rates. Now, we know that the Fed was not going to lower rates during this Fed meeting. This is not how the game is played. Remember, the mainstream media, the deep state, they're all out there watching very closely to say, hey, look, Trump's interfering with the Fed. They're no longer independent. They have to be independent. And this doesn't mean the Fed is not going to cut rates. It just means we're watching a show. We're watching it play out. And this is just the beginning stages to get everyone used to the idea of what is coming. And we know why this has to happen, because Trump needs to keep the central bank system alive through the 2020 elections. This is the entire plan. And while he's doing this, he's setting up the Federal Reserve. But if you look at the central bank economy, it is completely imploding on itself. And we see a lot of things starting to go the other way. And this is why Trump is going to have the Fed cut rates. If we look at the housing market once again, and we look at the mortgage applications, they continue to collapse. Overall mortgage applications, they fell by 4.3% this week, following last week's of 7.3%. Think about why that was happening. Mortgage applications were falling because the Fed was raising rates. Then they decided to, stop raising rates, and they're in a holding pattern. That's because Trump saw what the Fed was trying to do, saw what the deep state was going to do, and they were going to implode the economy. What the Fed was doing, well, it just didn't stop on a dime. Everything continually implodes on itself. And the only way to stop this is to cut rates, to reintroduce stimulus. And yesterday, if you notice, Trump pointed to China because they reintroduced stimulus. Why? Because the Fed couldn't do it right at this time. Why? Because they were tightening their balance sheet. But now the Fed has reported that they are looking at some type of new stimulus package. And I would suspect that the rates will be cut maybe by the end of this summer, leading into the 2020 election, which will allow the economy, and I believe stimulus is going to be pushed out there, and I believe the economy is going to roar into the 2020 elections. Does this mean the economy's fixed? No. This means that the can is being kicked down the street for a very specific reason, to destroy the Fed. That's the whole entire plan. But if Trump is not in the White House, how is he going to destroy the Fed? It's not going to work. This is why he needs to use the economy as a weapon. He's going to use this to win the elections. Think about it. If he has the economy doing the best that it's ever done, the numbers look fantastic, people feel good, and everyone believes that the economy is incredible. I mean, he's using the same weapons that they used on us all along. What are the other candidates going to do? Are they going to say, listen, I can make it even better than that? No, they can't make that argument. They can't really touch the economy, so they're going to go to different issues. And guess what? That's where things start to fall apart. And if you notice, Trump is pushing peace in many areas because he's going to have that under his belt also. And he needs to do this because when we look at the central bank system, it is completely imploding on itself. Now, according to the Treasury's conservative budget estimates, interest on the U.S. public debt is on track to reach a record $591 billion this fiscal year, more than the entire budget deficit in 2014 or 2015. And it equates to almost 3% of estimated GDP, the highest percentage since 2011. Now, as part of the Treasury's presentation to the Treasury Borrowing Advisory Committee, there's a chart showing the Office of Debt Management's forecast for annual U.S. debt issuance, broken down between its three components: uses of funds, primary deficit, net interest expense, and other. The chart is troubling because while in 2019 and 2020, U.S. interest expense was surging, it is roughly matched by the other deficit components in the U.S. budget. These gradually taper off by 2024 and, in fact, in 2025 become a source of budget surplus. Now, that's kind of questionable, and I wouldn't hold your breath on that one, but there is a red flag, and it starts in 2024, when the primary deficit drops to zero, according to the latest projections. All U.S. debt issuance will be used to fund the U.S. net interest expense, which, depending on the prevailing interest rate between now and then, will be anywhere between $700 billion and $1.2 trillion or more. In short, we have entered the Ponzi finance phase, the one in which all the new debt issuance is used to fund only interest on the debt. And this happens around 2024. So what do you think Trump has to do before that time? He needs to restructure and get rid of what? The debt. That is going to be the biggest problem. And the only way to do this is to bring down the Fed and to restructure it and to take it over and to show that everything that they've been doing was not on the up and up. And this can be done through an audit. Because once you show this, and they weren't following their mandate, they weren't doing all of this for the people, and if you can show all of this, guess what? This debt, bye-bye. Now, during this period of time, Trump needs to bring back manufacturing. Now, we see this happening. We also see him deregulating. There's tax cuts. There's benefits to the people. He's getting rid of the globalist trade deals. He's doing everything he possibly can. And remember, he's only in office 2.5 years, and he's done quite a bit. Some of this stuff is so tied up in Congress that he can't even touch it. I mean, look at Obamacare, for instance. It's very difficult to get around this. So you have to chip away at it a little bit at a time. You have to get rid of the penalty, which will then lead to say, hey, this is unconstitutional, which will then lead to, hey, we don't need Obamacare right now. See how they're doing all this? They have to chip away at all these different things because these things that they put into place, they made it impossible to get rid of in one fell swoop. And especially if you have Congress that is not on board with Trump and they're still working for the central bank, the deep state, the insurance companies, they're not going to do that much. But we do see Trump bringing back manufacturing. And the first 3 months of this year, manufacturing saw wages for workers rise at the most in over a decade. The Employment Cost Index, a measure of wages and benefits paid by businesses for manufacturing workers, rose by 1% in the first quarter. Now, the last time manufacturing saw a quarterly wage gain that high was in 2008, when wages also rose around 1% in the January through March period. Compared with a year ago, manufacturing wages were up 2.9% in March. That's the biggest 12-month gain since March of 2003, when wages rose around 3.2%. Now, during Obama's final year in office, manufacturing wages, they were rising on average around 0.625 a quarter. So Trump has completely pulled away from that, and wages are starting to move up. Now, Trump, he has been doing everything he possibly can to pump this economy up, to take control of the narrative, to make sure the central bank, the mainstream media, the deep state can't hit on the economy. And it looks like he has completely controlled the narrative with the mainstream media. And now it looks like he's completely controlled the narrative with the American people. Gallup did a poll, and Trump tweeted out the following. 56% of Americans rate their financial situation as excellent or good. This is the highest number since 2002 and up 10 points since 2016. So what he's done here is he's pushed the narrative. The mainstream media can't touch it. The American people, they're saying, we really like the direction this economy is going in. We like more of it. And nobody can touch this. He has the central bank, the deep state, exactly where he wants them economically, which means they can't touch him with regards to the economy. They can't even say that we're going to make it better. It wouldn't even make sense. And they can't say he's doing a terrible job. It's going to be very, very difficult to use economic questions on Trump. Now, we know that Trump has been pushing the Fed to lower interest rates. Kudlow was out there saying, yes, the Fed should lower interest rates. And of course, he said, listen, I'm not telling them what to do. They're completely independent. Now, this is part of the show. The Fed had their meeting, and the Fed decided, you know what, we're going to stay in this holding pattern. Well, of course, they're going to stay in this holding pattern. It would look kind of suspicious if all of a sudden Trump tweeted out, we want the Fed to lower rates, and all of a sudden the Fed did it, a day or two later? I mean, that's just completely suspicious. So what they need to do is they need to keep this in a holding pattern. Trump will tweet out a couple more times saying, listen, we really need the interest rate to come down. The economy would be so much better off. You like the economy now? Just think if the Fed just lowered the interest rates a little bit more, what do you think the stock market would do? What do you think would happen with wages? What do you think would happen with everything else? He's going to play this up over and over, and we will watch how the Fed decides, okay, inflation is low enough, and this is the way it's supposed to be, and this looks good, and of course they're going to be making all this up, and they're going to lower the rates. And once they lower the rates, the economy is going to skyrocket. The stock market, everything that we know of is going to skyrocket. And once the Fed decides to bring back stimulus, because Trump with his tweets is also going to mention a lot of stimulus, the economy is going to be soaring like we've never seen before come the 2020 elections. And this is all part of the plan. Now he has the Fed exactly where he wants them. Because if they do anything else than what he's telling them to do, and the economy falls apart, well, all he has to do is point the finger. Think about what he's just done. He wanted the Fed to stop raising rates. The Fed did it. The economy got better. He wanted the Fed to lower rates. The Fed's going to listen, and the economy is going to get a lot better. The stock market's going to go up. So now people are thinking, whoa, Trump's right. The Fed needs to follow what he's doing. Now the Fed, after the elections, they're going to go their own way. And this is going to be done on purpose. This is part of the plan. And people are going to see that, oh, look, the Fed just decided to raise rates again and the economy's starting to slip. Ooh, they did the opposite of what Trump told them to do. And the economy doesn't look good. Trump's going to make a couple more tweets. Listen, why did you do that? The economy was soaring. Look how I had the economy. It was fantastic. Why are you messing with it? Then the Fed is going to raise rates once again. They might even taper stimulus. And all of a sudden, the economy is going to start to implode on itself. Trump is going to continually point the finger. This is all part of the plan. Everything is going according to schedule. Sit back and enjoy the show. But one thing we need to be ready for, we are going to be transitioning from a central bank economy into a people's economy. And it's going to be a bumpy ride. It's just not going to be like, whoop, throw a switch and everything is great. Because a lot of people have been dealing with the Federal Reserve note, almost everybody. And this is going to lose value very, very quickly. Gold is going to gain value very, very quickly. And those people who are not prepared, they're going to be a little shocked of what is going on. And of course, it is going to help once the audit starts with the Fed. But during this period of time, there's going to be a transition period. Because during that time where there's an audit and things are going on, the dollar is going to lose value. Think about it for a sec. If Congress decides to audit the Fed, the faith in the Federal Reserve note, where does that go? Well, it goes down the tubes. And once they start finding things, it gets worse and worse and worse. And this is the transition period, because everyone's Federal Reserve debt notes that they're holding in the banks, well, those are electronic, but under your mattress, wherever it is, those are going to be losing value every single day. And yes, the Patriots do have some type of plan, but there's going to be a transition. Think about it. When we came off the gold standard back in the 70s, and we're moving on to a petrodollar system, we had very little bit of debt. We were coming off a solid system, moving on to a crappy system, which was based on oil and pretty much nothing else. And the Federal Reserve was allowed to create as much currency as possible. Look what happened. There are many countries that it was a nightmare for them. The United States, we couldn't get fuel. People had no jobs. Things were a complete and utter mess. Yes, interest rates were very high, and inflation was hitting. That was the only good thing in the beginning of their system. And people thought, oh, well, look, I have these great CDs. Look, my house just went up in value. Yes, it's always great in the beginning of the system, but look at the gas lines. Look what was happening. People couldn't find jobs. Everything took a little while before it all evened out, and that was in the 80s, when all of a sudden credit was released and the interest rates started to come down. People started to get more and more credit cards because the value of the dollar decreased and people couldn't live on that. And they had to supplement it somehow, some way. And as we went through the 90s into the 2000s, it got worse and worse and worse. Think about this time around. We're coming off a system where the value of the dollar, well, that has decreased about, 97%, 98% right now? And gold has been held down. And we have a huge amount of debt. And the Fed, once it's audited, people are going to lose faith in it. So it is going to be a bumpy ride, and this is why you need to be prepared for this transition. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.